So just to go over last week, if you haven't sent them in this week, because I'm going to have all homework by next Friday. But what were some of your ideas for helping a friend who's overweight and at risk for type 2 diabetes? Seth, what about some of yours?
Somebody overweight, probably a keto diet, because it seems to work for a lot of people.
Why?
I don't know. Because it's a lot of, I don't know, it just does. And then, just a lot of protein and a lot of fat for somebody that's, a lot of calories for somebody that's underweight.
Okay. What about the extreme cold and dry skin? What about for that? All right, so when you're sending me, make sure you send me the whys too. So if you want to recommend a specific diet, why you would recommend it, and then how you would go about it. So for this week, we're going to do two things. We're going to go over conflicts in nutrition, and we're going to go over the study guide for the final. So you'll have all the answers to that, and I'll go ahead and post it too. So for conflicts in nutrition, give me some crazy advice you've heard about nutrition and wellness. So give you some of the ones that I've heard. Use brown sugar instead of white sugar.
Yeah.
Juice your fruits and vegetables to lose weight. Egg yolks raise your cholesterol. Drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water every day. Anything that has anything to do with superfoods. And then the cabbage soup diet. So any crazy extreme diet. And I picked a lot of these. So what could be the problem in some of these? Because some of these aren't necessarily wrong. But why could they be a problem? So just picking out one, the drink 8 8-ounce glasses of water per day. That's not necessarily wrong for some people. But why could it be a problem? Does everybody need 8 8-ounce glasses of water a day?
No.
No. 8 8-ounce glasses of water is how many ounces? 64. So if you're thinking maybe you want to get half your weight in ounces, who is 8 8-ounce glasses of water good for? Somebody who weighs how much?
160-pound person. Ish.
No. What's 64 times 2?
220.
Nope.
20.
Nope. 64 times 2.
228?
128.
128, sorry. I was getting there.
Nobody's doing math this week.
I'm like half asleep, so I'm listening.
So 128. Is everybody 128 pounds?
No.
No. If it's hotter, are you going to need more? Even if you are a 128-pound person?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're doing stuff, are you going to need more? Yeah. So a lot of these are kind of an oversimplification. So that can be a problem just because people don't completely understand. Because nutrition, I mean, you guys have been in it for the last 16 weeks. Nutrition is a complicated subject, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into it. So if you simplify it too much, it can make a bigger problem just because it can be misunderstood. So just go over some of the things, just the limitations in nutritional research. So even the research behind it has its own limitations. So these ones are going to be some that you want to remember for your final. Measurement error is the inability to conclusively measure an individual's entire diet without large margins of error. So if you have somebody write down their diet, are they going to forget stuff? Probably.
Mhm.
Are they going to, even if they don't forget stuff, will they leave stuff out? Will they be able to measure everything exactly perfectly? Probably not. And even if you put somebody in a bubble, would they be able to stay there long term? And would you be able to measure the diet they would have in their normal life? Probably not. So measurement error is a big one, because it's really hard to measure all of somebody's diet all the time. Confounders are sources of error due to lifestyle associations that may skew results. So what could be a confounder? So there's a big one that tends to, so just to give you an example, they've done research on people who drink soda tend to have shorter lifespans. Now, people who drink a lot of soda, are they going to be super, super active most of the time? Probably not.
No.
So there can be other things in their lives that may cause the shorter lifespan than just the soda by itself. Smoking is also another one that can become an issue with nutrition. And what's another one that could come up? Drinking. Drinking is another one. There are all kinds of things that aren't necessarily related to nutrition that could affect your life and your health, but it could skew your results. Now, the variable effects of food items is a really hard one. So even if you let's say you give everybody in the study a banana, you're studying how bananas affect your ability to run and not get cramps. So even if everybody got a banana, they all got the same food. Now, is everybody going to get the same size banana?
No.
No. Is that banana all going to come from the same place?
Yeah.
Are some of those bananas going to be newer? Yeah.
Probably.
You're probably not going to give everybody the same bunch of bananas, especially since you have to do bigger studies. So are you going to give all 300 people the same kind of banana? Probably not. So, and all of those, even in the same bunch of bananas, they could have different levels of nutrients, right? So if you're trying to decide that the banana does something or something in the banana does something, it's really hard to measure that. Reference groups is also difficult just because are you guys going to have the same diet and lifestyle I do? Probably not. Are you going to have the same diet and lifestyle each other does?
Probably.
Probably not. And you're probably not going to have the same diet and lifestyle that anybody else does. So it can be hard to create a group to compare to. So, and trying to compare to each other makes it difficult because you're all different. So those confounding factors make it very, very difficult. Because of this, now this is very, very important for later. When you're talking about nutrition studies, you cannot determine causality. You cannot say this caused this. You can say something may have contributed to this, but you cannot say something caused this. That is very, very, very important because there's no way to actually see that it causes something because there's so many confounding factors right now and we don't have a way to isolate those factors. The way nutrients interact can also make a big difference. We've talked about before, grapefruit can interact with medication or other foods, right? So if you're trying to study something and then somebody adds grapefruit in there at one point, that can interact with a whole bunch of other foods, right? And completely change the entire study. That can become a problem. So it can also change the way you would see the nutrients, so that it can be an issue with the study. Now with testing, some studies come to different conclusions, even if they did it the same way. And that can be some kind of mistaken association or a bias, and it creates conflict in the media on what's healthy or not. So some studies, even if, again, they can do the same thing, but they can come to different conclusions based on what other people think. That happens a lot if somebody only reads part of the study and doesn't go through each individual thing, how things were measured, why they did things a certain way. So you really have to go into the whole thing. So it's a lot of work to go into nutritional research.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about this? Did you have a question, Seth? Lost it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What if they have like for a couple months they had a group of a bunch of people do the same exact things, eat the same thing, and then they do the testing, and then they continue doing the same things.
They could, but their months, and a month's not very long. If we're looking general lifespan, month's really not a long time. You have to have a lot of people do it. You have to have them follow it 100%. That's not going to be their lifestyle beforehand. And remember how we talked about genetics can affect the way you process food differently and use food differently? Everybody's genetics is going to be different.
Wouldn't that make it a little more accurate?
They do sometimes, but it's hard because you don't want to put everybody in a bubble. You want to see how their nutrition affects them in their life and long term. So you really can't, it's hard to do that if you're basically putting everybody in one room and forcing them to do all the same thing every time.
But what if it was like at a ranch or something, and they pretty much did the same thing?
Yeah, you could. And they do some that are similar to that, but everybody's still doing different things. And you still got to think that not all foods are going to have the same nutrients. You can try to test them, but that's also starting to become a very, very expensive study. So it better give some really good results. And that's also a risk too, is studies are very expensive or can be very expensive, and they don't always give you any information. And a lot of times that information is thrown out. That makes it hard too, because you got to think about the risk of doing something that big. Now, when it comes to the media, does the media cover health? Yeah.
Does it really matter? If you really want to know, why would you listen to the media?
It definitely matters because a lot of people do listen to the media. So how could the media coverage skew studies? So think about the McGovern report. The McGovern report said that they didn't know a whole lot about saturated fats at that point in relation to heart disease, but generally you should probably have plenty of fruits, vegetables, lean meats. It was pretty general health advice. But what did it do when the media got a hold of it?
Don't eat that.
Yeah, it caused the low fat craze. So what about now? What kind of studies what kind of media coverage can you think of now that has caused interesting stuff for our health?
They've caused stress.
Yeah.
That adds to the health factor thing. Not exactly nutrition, but
Yeah. Or think about what are eggs. Are eggs good for you or bad for you?
both. Depending on where you get them.
Yeah, depending on where you get your information, it could be either. Now, there are a couple of statements that I want you to watch for in media articles, and we're going to look at a couple of them. Anything that's a definitive claim, so it's saying something causes something. Can you say, so from a study, can you say anything causes? No. So if they're saying it in the media, it's probably not true. Sensationalist claims are also another big one. We're going to look at one. Anything that says bacon's a killer or something that is just really, really out there, probably not something to listen to if you're looking at an article. Who paid for the article is very, very important. There have been many, many, many times, and who paid for studies is also important. We'll talk about that. Who paid for the article? There have been many times I've seen articles on diabetes or childhood obesity paid for by Coke. Is that a conflict of interest? Probably, because what is their one goal? Yeah, to get you to buy more Coke, right? Their business, that's what they do. So for them to pay for an article on childhood diabetes or childhood obesity or diabetes probably isn't going to go well. And also look at the study cited by the article. Well, we're going to look at one, partly where the study came from, make sure it's a relevant study. Because sometimes there have been situations where an article will cite a study, But what they said, the study said, is not the same thing. That happens a lot with red meat. There was one in particular that I was looking for. I think the article got taken down, but there was an article on, actually 2 articles, one that said red meat does cause colon cancer and one that said it doesn't. They cited the same study. They just took different pieces of that study. And the study said neither of those things. It was talking about processed meats like hot dogs and lunch meats. So even if it does cite a study, it says something along the lines of science says or studies say, that's something else to look for. One that comes up a lot is a simplistic view of a complex subject. Going back to eggs, so if you eat cholesterol, eggs are an extremely high source of cholesterol. If you eat cholesterol, does that raise your cholesterol?
No.
No, your body makes your cholesterol. So, but that will come up a lot because eggs have a lot of dietary cholesterol. People will say that raises your cholesterol, which isn't necessarily true. It's a very simplistic view of a very complex subject. Now, also look at who's writing the article, and that kind of goes with who paid for it. Are they relevant? Do they know anything about the subject? I like to use Dr. Oz as an example. Dr. Oz is a cardiac surgeon. Do cardiac surgeons necessarily know a whole lot about nutrition?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. They're very good at taking apart the heart, not necessarily great about nutrition. Look for irrelevant information. If they're trying to throw in a lot of silly facts that don't matter, that's important. If they're trying to make you feel something that does not matter for the article, we'll look at that too. That's important. That probably means it's a media article you don't really want to look for. And fix-alls. Do we do any fix-alls? Does anything work for everybody? No. So just looking at a couple of these. Oh, forgot. And for studies. So what should you watch out for with studies? Make sure it's peer-reviewed research. And I actually give you a link because there's a lot of information. Most of the time, they'll just tell you to click the check mark for peer-reviewed research when you're searching it. The link that I gave you actually shows you how to look up peer-reviewed research and know that it is peer-reviewed. So what is peer-reviewed research?
Research that is true. Or
Not necessarily, but it's closer just because it's something that got looked at by a bunch of experts or a bunch of people in the field. So somebody else actually looked over it. Somebody else actually just get thrown out there, which is not always fantastic. Nadia, can you see the screen?
No.
Okay, let me go back. I think we might lose you for a little bit.
Okay.
The internet's kind of going in and out. Look for, again, who paid for the study. Who paid for the study is very, very important. How many participants in the study? If it's 10 people, probably doesn't matter that much. 10 people is not a good sample group. The methods for the study, did they do everything correctly? And that's going to be really hard to look at if you don't know the field well, but you can still look it up. Biases in the conclusion. So this will go back to who paid for the study and looking at the researcher. Did they make any conclusions that didn't seem quite right? And that'll be going back to look at the methods. And again, a simplification of complex ideas. Now, get some articles for you to look at. So, all of these on here. The first one, yes, bacon is really killing us. What do we, just right off the bat, what are we looking at?
Bacon is shooting us.
That's probably not true. Even if some of the information in the article is true, looking at the a sensationalist claim on there, probably not a great article to read. The cholesterol myth. Now, for that, look at the middle one. Why did I pull that one out?
Because of its comment.
Because of its first sentence. Does the president have anything to do with cholesterol? Are we talking politics? No. So right off the bat, they're trying to irritate you. Either way you feel about the president, they're trying to irritate you with their first statement. So they're trying to make you feel something that may be irrelevant for the article. And then the last one, coffee is good for you, more science shows. Why'd I pick that one? Yeah, partly because it just says more science shows, no backup. And that first little bit of it, coffee is good for you, is that a definitive statement? Yes. Is coffee always good for you? No. Is anything always good for you?
No.
No. Now, we're going to go into the next one. Who paid for the articles in the study? So this is one that I pulled, and it's kind of hard to look at, but I want to make sure I got all the information on there. If you want to look it up, I went ahead and gave you the links to it. So this is an article on insulin therapy and how insulin therapy has changed over the years. It talks about how there are certain things we're going to need for effective insulin therapy, make sure that we're keeping track of it all the time. It was actually a very informative article. It talked about how people with diabetes, when they need insulin, it needs to be tracked very, very closely and needs to be changed often. Now, look at the person who wrote the article. Dr. Hodish. So Dr. Hodish, and even if you look down at the disclosure statement, Dr. Hodish is the co-founder of Hygieia Inc. Now, looking at the article on the study on the side is the one that they cited. Who wrote it? Dr. Hodish. Now, when they never ever mention this piece in the actual media article, but they really push toward the idea. The DNAV insulin guidance service. So remember how I talked about the article kind of talks about diabetes and how it needs to be monitored regularly, and you always need the insulin and you need it to change all the time. Remember that part? That's what the DNAV insulin guidance service does. Look at and even in the study, the person who is cited in the study is Dr. Hodish. Now, what does Hygieia Inc. make? The DNAV insulin guidance service. So the media article is really just trying to push, even if it didn't at all directly talk about the DNAV, it's still talking about what it does. And at some point there was an ad on there, and I tried to find it, it wasn't on there anymore. There was an ad on there for that insulin guidance service. So the point of the study and the point of the article was financial gain or Hygieia, which is fine, but something we need to look for, because that can come up a lot, and that can really skew what we think, because are they going to be kind of biased toward their product? Probably. And if we're looking at diabetics, even some of it was just not necessarily correct. Diabetics don't, it talked about how diabetes can't be controlled with a diet and exercise, which is not necessarily true. So there were some things that were very skewed in the article and pushing towards the study. So something to think about, and this comes up a lot more often than I'd like it to. And even think about all the steps that I had to take to figure this out. So first I had to see, this article seems a little bit biased. Then I looked at who wrote it. Saw it was Dr. Hodish. Saw Dr. Hodish was the co-founder of Hygieia. Looked at some of the study that it actually cited. Saw that Dr. Hodish wrote the study, wrote a lot of the parts that were cited in the study, and that the study was pushing for this very specific thing. Is that something you're going to do with every article? No. That would be silly and that would take forever. That's my job. But it is something to keep an eye on and give you an idea. Not every study is going to be super, super accurate. Now, let me push this up to the top a little bit. There we go. So there's another one. What is the issue with this one? Eggs are nearly as bad for your arteries as cigarettes.
It's saying it as a fact.
It is. That and the little blurb at the top, the cholesterol in delicious egg yolks accelerate atherosclerosis, the buildup of plaque in our arteries, almost as much as smoking. Now, already, right there, do we know that cholesterol does not necessarily accelerate atherosclerosis or high cholesterol? Does dietary cholesterol cause high cholesterol? No. So already in that very, very first part, not necessarily true. Even if there was something else in egg yolks that did contribute to atherosclerosis, it's not necessarily cholesterol, so it's already something that we're kind of iffy about. Now, that's going to be what we look at for the conflicts in nutrition. I do want to take a couple minutes to go over the final, because these are all of the questions that have the potential to be put on there. Some of them may be more short answers, so I want to make sure you understand them. And I'm also going to put the study guide for the final on the website and the Facebook page. But first, what is the telling sign of heat stroke? What is that big
Stop sweating.
Stop sweating? Big thing that you want to watch out for. If somebody stops sweating, you know you're probably looking at heat stroke. Would you burn more calories exercising your upper body or lower body?
Lower body.
Lower body. Why? Bigger muscles. Now, which hormone decreases during exercise? We just talked about it in one of the studies. It was convenient. Insulin. Yeah, why?
It has something to do with digesting, doesn't it? Or
Kind of. Insulin's a storage hormone, right?
oh yes.
Do you need to store during exercise?
No, you need to
No.
use it.
Yeah, you need to use it. So all of the mobility hormones, the ones that actually put energy into your bloodstream, those are going to be the ones that are increased during exercise. Insulin's decreased. What is the hippocampus?
Part of the brain.
It's part of the brain. What does it do?
Deal with your oh my gosh.
Nadia, can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit.
What
Just
does
breaking in and
hippocampus
out.
do? Yeah, I figured I would. The recording will be up too.
Yeah.
What does the hippocampus do? What does it help with? There's one word, starts with an M. Adults are very bad at this one. Memory, not mindful eating. Memory. The hippocampus helps with memory. Why do we care with that with exercise? Why do we care about your hippocampus when it comes to exercise? No. There's more blood flow to the hippocampus, so the hippocampus or the exercise does help with memory. Now, there's a big one. Does lactic acid buildup help with muscle soreness?
Yes.
Or cause muscle soreness? No. Nope.
The muscles get kind of sore and tired
Nope.
while you're working out.
Nope. It burns, so that's not soreness. Lactic acid buildup does not cause muscle soreness. If you put that on the test, I will be mad. What kind of light, and I actually may change that to what color light makes it hard to sleep? Blue.
What? Blue.
Blue, yeah. How long should you avoid electronics before bed?
Like an hour? I don't know.
2 hours. 2 hours. What's one nutrient that helps you sleep?
All the time. Chamomile, but it's
Chamomile does help you sleep. It is, but are you thinking melatonin?
Melatonin.
That's another one too. Fiber also helps you sleep. What's one nutrient that keeps you awake?
Uh,
Yeah.
Caffeine helps.
Caffeine, spicy foods, protein can keep you awake. Mm-hmm. Where does the short-term stress response come from? It does, but what part of it starts with an A? Adrenal cortex. What is a negative response to long-term stress?
It's like super.
Remember what it's called? Burnout.
But it's like.
What is a symptom of burnout?
Short temper.
Yeah, short temper. Another one could be sugar cravings. Fatigue is another one. Lack of concentration, memory loss, all kinds of good long-term responses to stress. What is an adaptogen?
What is that?
yeah.
You remember?
Mhm.
It's an herb that helps with stress. So it's an herb that helps with stress, but it works with your body. It doesn't do any more than your body can handle. And it's there for regulation, not change. Yes, it's a support. How long have herbal remedies been used?
10,000 years.
A,
Back till the
a long, long time. So go back through the herbal remedies one. And you can talk about, so you can talk about the caves where they found the cave drawings and the information about the herbal remedies. That's not necessarily where they're thinking they started anymore. But go back through there and talk about, at least when I bring up that question, go through it and go through at least one of the historical remedies. Now, who is the father of Western medicine? Starts with an H. No. We got a much longer name than Henry. Hippocrates. Hippocrates is the father of Western medicine. What is the first medicine that came from plants? It was. You remember? First medicine that came from plants. The first one that they broke down. It was not penicillin. I'm gonna make you guys go through back through that herbal remedies one and look that one up. Who regulates herbal remedies? What government entity? Is it the USDA? Nope. It's the FDA. What are toxins? I will accept a whole lot of answers for that. I'll accept nasties in your environment. I'll accept specific ones. I'll accept what they do to your liver or what they do to your body. I'll accept the definition for free radicals, all kinds of good stuff. Now, how can increased toxicity worsen asthma? Give me one way.
Just amplify what asthma does, which is make your crown. It's like the little pieces. Bronchioles?
Yeah.
That swell up or shrink.
So I'll take as deep as that, but I'll also take increased toxicity can overload your body and make problems that are already there worse. So remember that example of the cup overflowing? Yeah. So talking about that cup, when it's worsening asthma or even causing asthma, we're looking at the increased toxicity. Your body just can't handle the load that's around it. So all of the pollutants that are in the air, if we're talking about asthma, all the pollutants in the air that are filling up that cup, overloading it. Once it starts overflowing, you can't get rid of the pollutants that are in the cup as quickly as they're filling it. That's when asthma gets worse. Now, where are toxins stored?
Fat?
In your fat. Mm-hmm. What is an endocrine disruptor?
Sounds like something.
An endocrine disruptor is anything that disrupts your hormone function. So anything that messes up your endocrine system. What recycle number indicates BPA in plastic? So you know that little triangle that's on the bottom of recyclable plastics? Yep, 7. What does phase 1 of your liver detoxification do? Remember we talked about your liver kind of being like the trash that you have in your house? So phase 1 is taking the trash out to the curb, making the toxins water soluble, putting them in your bloodstream. And then phase 2 is the trash man taking it out. Now, what happens if phase 2 isn't there?
Really, it's sneaky.
Yep, it stays in your bloodstream, gets worse, gets dumped back into your fat cells. And it's worse than it was. Normally it makes you sick first. Will a high protein or high carbohydrate diet decrease your toxic load better?
Yes.
It was an and/or question. High protein or high carbohydrate?
Protein.
Protein, yeah. What study started the low-fat diet craze? Yeah, McGovern report. When did the Health and Human Services and USDA merge to create guidelines for our food? I'll take a decade for that one. Nope, way later. Nope, later. 80s, you were close. Has obesity increased or decreased since 1950?
What?
Obesity, increased or decreased? Increased. Has eating out increased or decreased? Yeah, increased.
Dinner tea thing.
What is epigenetics? Epigenetics is the control that our environment has, or the change that our environment can play on our genes or our gene expression. What is nutrigenomics? The subset of nutrition in epigenetics. What is getting sick? We've already talked about this once.
Your body fighting. Whatever it is.
Yeah, your body getting overloaded. It's whatever is making you sick is filling up that cup faster than you can get rid of it. DNA methylation does what to genes? Well, histone acetylation does what to them? DNA methylation silences or activates? You should probably watch this. This is a couple weeks ago. DNA methylation silences genes while histone acetylation activates them. Free radical damage causes... No. But yes. Aging. Free radical damage causes aging. Or if you want to get deeper into it, it causes an electron to be pulled from a healthy cell and causing that cell to become a free radical itself and causing more damage. What is one group that might need a special diet? Yep. Diabetics, people with cancer. What type of food needs to be avoided in those with celiac disease? What protein?
Wait, is it a special type of protein?
Yep, it's a protein in celiac disease. It's in wheat. Gluten, yeah. What diet works well to control epileptic seizures? It's a very, very low carb or a ketogenic diet. What are FODMAPs?
A list of stuff. A list of.
Yeah, it's a bunch of different kinds of fibers: fructose, lactose, galactose, polyols. They're different foods and different kinds of fibers and sugar alcohols and things that may upset your stomach. So they're used a lot in inflammation diet, or not inflammation diets, elimination diets. Trying to avoid those to make sure that you don't have that one of those is not bothering you, because a lot of times they'll be grouped in so that you can figure out what you're allergic to or what you're sensitive to. Now these are from today. What are confounders or confounding factors? So a confounder is something that could potentially change the study or change the results of the study that doesn't necessarily have to do with the study at all. But can't be isolated, or they don't know about it. So it could be something like the participant smoking, or them not being as active as others, or having different genetic factors. Could be a lot of things. What's one thing you should look for in a media article to analyze its accuracy?
Oh.
That they bring into it for no reason.
Yeah, irrelevant information. Who paid for it? Definitive statements, sensationalist claims. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Now, what's one thing you should look for in a study to analyze its accuracy? Yeah, who wrote it? Who funded it? Is it peer-reviewed? The methods that they used, the size of the study that they used, 400 or 400 people. Lots of things to try to make sure that it's, number one, as accurate or as relevant, because if it has 4 people in it, is it going to be super relevant? No, probably not. Now, all your homework is a study for your final. I put up the study guide last night, but I'll go ahead and re-add it again. So go ahead and study for the final. It will be up on Friday, and you have until the following Friday to finish the final and get all your homework in. And then I'll have grades out the following week for the class. Let me know if you have any questions. I know it was kind of hard to hear today, but if you have any questions about it, definitely let me know, okay?
Yeah.
And that, I will see you guys. Well, this is the last class, but I will see if you have any questions. And I will send an email with the final on Friday.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.